All right, what's up, everybody? Here we are in the break room known as the Outer Limits. Once again, last time you saw us here, if you're watching on YouTube or if you're just listening and you hear a slightly different echo in the background, we had a contest. And in that case, it was a wild game burger cook-off. And that one went over quite well. We had a lot of very interesting burgers prepared, and so we decided we should have another wild game cook-off. But this time, we would change up the dish to burritos, and pretty big deal here. So anyway, you have Jimmy on the mic here, and we have Colin to my left. He is a return customer from the last cook-off. We have Sawyer now, new guest to the podcast. We'll let him do a bigger intro here in just a second, and then Mark. And judging everything is Rebecca. So just an incredible judge from the last cook-off, so we had to bring her back. The breadth of knowledge and experience, and yes. Rebecca, you seem to have, when we did the burger cook-off, it was like, we already know you had this kind of set of, what do you call them? Almost like grading.
Criteria.
Like criteria, yes, exactly, that you brought over from some of your previous professions. Now, do you have any particular experience in the sort of Latin American Mexican food arena?
The burrito arts.
The burrito arts specifically?
Nothing specific. I do like burritos a lot.
Mm-hmm. But all your culinary...
Checks all the boxes.
Exactly. Basically, yeah. If you like burritos, you're in.
Sounds like Team Burrito to
and,
me.
And in the end, it's all food just sort of wrapped up in a tortilla. So...
that's the definition, as we found out.
Literally, Brittany sent us over the dictionary definition for the rules prior to coming into this, and literally told us that we could make anything we wanted as long as it was wrapped in a tortilla. Sawyer, what do you want to address the listeners with for your first ever Vortex Nation podcast debut?
Well, I was supposed to be on the burger one. I ended up having a catastrophic back injury, and that's actually the first thing I thought of. I was leaving the emergency room in a wheelchair, and I was like, God damn it. all I could think about was that burger that I was planning on cooking in my head. So this whole week leading up to this one, as I was kind of starting to sketch out what I was going to make, I was like picturing myself having some like Forrest Gump accident where I have some hilarious like household injury and have to miss another one, like you walk into a rake or something and I lose an eye.
I love the dedication, though. It's not, will I walk again? It's I'm missing the burger cook-off.
Yeah, a bit of a story of redemption for you here.
He walked so we could fry, I think is what they say.
I like that.
But yeah, I'm feeling good. Appreciate the invite. Long-time listener, first-time caller, so...
Appreciate that. Okay, so in front of us on the table, we have a lot of different things that were used in the making of these burritos. But what we figured we would do, and as Rebecca continues to get her criteria down on paper, which she's mentioned it is already 4 pages long, lest we forget, we're going to explain a little bit of what we made for you guys. And then at the end, you'll be able to hear Rebecca's professional food judge determination. So what do you guys think? Who wants to start? Have you heard enough of me talking already, or should I just start while I'm rolling?
Well, I think we should mention that, Jim, that the burrito category probably wasn't one that was selected at random. Like I'd say only second to cars, equal with cars. All I know is you love burritos. You eat burritos like 3 times a week. And I know for a fact you came correct in this competition.
So I did feel, yes, I talk about burritos probably almost every day, and I did feel a bit of a target coming into this one on my back because of that, and because I know I've bragged on my homemade burritos before and my sort of very picky tastes for all the different burrito joints around. So yes, I did feel I was a little bit anxious coming into this because I felt I had a lot to prove, but probably was a great influence on this. And it's funny, too, because when we did the Instagram poll a while back of Street Tacos First Burritos, Street Tacos did win. And yet, here we are today not making street tacos. So, there you have it, folks. I guess it doesn't matter what you think.
I think there's a larger message there, too. Nothing matters, you know?
Yeah.
What? These could all be street taco flavors, just wrapped one additional, an extra tuck.
It's true.
Then it makes it a burrito.
It's true. A bigger tortilla and, a little bit of a tuck in bed, if you will, differentiates these from a street taco. and some more filling and just an overall better eating experience. Anyway, should
Hashtag disagree.
No one's biased.
who should go first? Should we just make our way on?
Let's just keep her moving, Jim.
All right. So for this burrito that I made, I really wanted to make sure that the burritos that I brag about every day at work, when I come in from just eating some or bringing some in for leftovers, I wanted to keep it exactly the same. The worst thing I figured I could do was come into this competition and suddenly change a big variable when I have an equation that's been working out so well now for the last couple of years. I happen to be married to probably the only person on earth that I can imagine who, besides me, is A-okay eating burritos about twice a week. So my lovely wife, thank you very much for putting up with me. We've been married a little over 2 years now, and I kid you not. In fact, actually, for the first year of our marriage, we had burrito Sundays. So it was every Sunday we'd make burritos, and we'd make enough that would then last us a while through the rest of the week. And that sort of deteriorated into just sort of burritos once a week, any day of the week. But yes, it's allowed me the chance to practice the recipe. I've had a couple of changes over time, and just standing on the other side of the glass at Chipotle and Qdoba and Pincheros, and then some of the other more, or less fast foody restaurants around here, I've tried to watch all the burrito makers and artisans at work to see what it is that they're doing that I can try to mimic. So anyway, why don't I just dive right on in? There's a lot going on in the preparation of my burritos. So very first thing that I do is I'll take 2 bell peppers, really any color works. I prefer orange and yellow because I think they look the best with the red onion. So it's like half a red onion and 2 bell peppers. I slice them up, fajita veggie style, which is just kind of lengthwise, and I throw them in the skillet with a little bit of avocado oil and just let them kind of sit there and simmer. I don't like to mix my veggies around too much. I like to let them just sit where they fall as I initially get them broken up, because then you get a little bit of that charring on one side and then a regular cooked tenderness on the other side. But I'll season them with some garlic, a lot of cumin, and then let's see here: garlic, cumin, salt, pepper, and what's the other ingredient? I'm suddenly drawing a blank.
Chili powder?
I don't actually put any chili powder on these, because I save that for the meat. I figured if I was putting chili powder on everything, it'd get excessive. I actually think that's pretty much that's what it was. It's basically dried jalapenos. Wow, I really don't seem like I know what I'm talking about.
It's just it's second nature to you, Jim.
It is, right? I don't even think about it when I'm going out and grabbing it. It's ancho. No, not ancho. It's adobo. No, it's not adobo. But you know what?
Is it over there, Jim?
It is over there. Hold on. Can we just pause? Boop. After a little Chinese fire drill there and people getting some chips and guac and stuff, I actually realized that the seasoning I was looking for was Chipotle seasoning. Which should come, obviously, because obviously there's the Chipotle restaurant chain. Oddly enough, I remember always trying to copy a little bit of what their seasoning was on their steak, and for the longest time, I couldn't get it, and I was like, there's no way it's Chipotle. Like, that would just make too much sense. There's no way. I'm not going to use Chipotle just because I know it's not that. And then I put Chipotle in it, and I noticed a significant difference, and it tasted much more similar to theirs.
In front of your face the whole time.
In front of my face the whole time. So
hidden in plain sight.
Garlic, cumin, chipotle, salt, and pepper, and then I let those do that thing. And in the same skillet, once those are done, and they're kind of blackened on one side, tender on the other, then I'll toss in my meat. I usually am using chicken at home that I just dice up, but in this case, I was using a Nebraska whitetail from a year ago, and I lucked out big time because I knew this was going to be a wild game cook-off. It happened to be my wife was rummaging around the freezer the other day, and she found a hindquarter steak still that I had not managed to eat within 2 weeks of killing that deer. It was the only piece I had left. I think actually even at the time about a year ago, I said, you know what, I'm going to save this for a special occasion. And that's how that worked out. But I season that with almost the exact same thing, but I take out the chipotle for the meat, because if you put chipotle, it's pretty spicy. If you have it on your veggies and your meat, then you kind of get a little bit overwhelming. It's too spicy. At least I know for my wife, when I make it for her, it is. So I take it out for the meat, and I add in the chili powder for the meat. So that's kind of a substitution there. And then just let this cook, and it got to a really, really nice rare, I would say. Is that how you describe what this is at? It's like a medium rare.
I'd say a medium, between a medium and medium rare. Yeah.
You think? Okay. So same skillet, like I said. Now, I know some people would prefer to grill it. In this particular case, we didn't have a grill handy, so we were using the skillet. In fact, this is my old Ninja cooker, which is a slow cooker, and then a stovetop thing that I use. So
phenomenal job, by the way, on that.
Appreciate that. It really,
good.
actually, I lucked out because I haven't cooked venison in such a long time, and now we're going into fall, so I'm at a complete crisis now because that wasn't the last of it. But so cook that up. While that's going and while the peppers are going, I'll generally start on my cilantro lime rice, which I just use simple Minute Maid white rice. And in this particular case, since I didn't have a stovetop to boil the water, I just used the old coffee machine's hot water over there, and it worked out pretty good. But you just use a cup of water, hot water, boiling water, and then a cup of rice. And when I boil the water, so ideally if I'm not using coffee machine hot water, what I'll do is boil a cup of water with a bunch of lime juice in it. I'm very indiscriminate about how much lime juice I use, just a lot. And then some salt and some butter. And then when that all gets boiling, you pour the rice in. Like I said, a cup of rice, or maybe a little bit more because that lime juice and the butter and all that stuff kind of adds a little bit to the liquid. And then you throw in as much cilantro as you can possibly fit in your hand, unless you have a gigantic hand. I don't have the world's biggest hand, but a lot of cilantro. Mix it up, and that'll all cook down as the rice gets ready, and it'll get a lot smaller than it looks like when you first put it in there. And those are like the pillars to the burrito. From there, then, you just got to have the right big tortilla. I'll take as big of a flour tortilla as I can get. Some Sargento authentic Mexican cheese. How authentic it is or not, I honestly couldn't tell you, but I know it's my favorite. Some like spring mix lettuce I prefer because a very famed, in my book, burrito maker around the Madison area here, Mango Man, uses spring mix in his burritos, and I just really like it. And then some black beans, some homemade guacamole, just like as simple guacamole as you can get. It's just tomatoes, red onion, avocado, lime juice, and salt. And then what else is in there? I think I just hit everything. Green salsa and also Cholula green sauce too, because I like mine to have a zip to it. And when we get into Colin's, I said his barbacoa here tasted like a hug, whereas I like my burritos to kind of have a zip, that zing.
Sure.
Anyway, roll them with the tortilla, and then finish off the tortilla. You got to heat up the tortilla before you roll it, so that you make the tortilla more pliable. And then when you roll it up, this is another thing. I know I'm talking so much here right now, but it's so important. It's so important. It'll change your life forever. You heat up the tortilla, you take it off, and you put it on your plate. Then you're going to do rice, beans, meat, then peppers and onions, if you choose to go that route. Then do your salsa and the green Cholula sauce, which I know a lot of people put the salsa on last. And it makes me mad because what happens is if you put the salsa on last, so then I'm following all that up with the spring lettuce and the cheese. But if you put the salsa on last, what happens is as you're rolling it, the best way to roll a burrito, you actually have to get your fingers in it a little bit, like inside the burrito, so that you can tuck everything in so it doesn't spill out the front. You don't like snow plow it out the front. That's what you don't want to do. So you got to get your fingers in the burrito a little bit. And if your salsa's on top, your fingers get in all the salsa. And then as you take them out and go to finish the roll, you get salsa all over the outside of the burrito tortilla. And then you've given somebody a soggy feeling wet tortilla. And it's miserable.
No good.
I feel like I'm at a TED Talk right now.
No doubt.
I'm super into it. It's like, all right, thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
We'll talk about burritos today.
So, like I said, you put the salsa and the green jalapeno Cholula sauce on, and then your lettuce, spinach, spring mix, whatever, and then cheese. Then you roll it all up. You'll have clean fingers, and then finish it off on a cast iron, folded side down, so you get like a crispy browned tortilla crunch almost right there. It also seals in all the flavor and everything, and that's how it's done. It is an art.
A lot of method to the madness there.
I apologize. Like I said, I've been talking a ton here. But anyway, why don't we kick it on over to Colin?
Yeah, it's hard to follow that up. But like you said, mine's a barbacoa. It's from my elk that I got about a year ago. This was a brand new recipe for me. I'd never tried this one before. So this is, I felt like I was kind of winging it. But a little call out to one of our trailblazers, Hank Shaw. This is his barbacoa recipe, not my own. I did not invent this. So, nice. But love his book, Buck Buck Moose. If you don't have it, I highly recommend it. You get some great recipes in there. So this was pretty basic. It was actually really simple to do. Just basically chopped up a red onion, threw that into a crock pot. I put the meat in on top of that, chopped up a couple cloves of garlic, threw that in there too. You actually use, I made some homemade stock to put in there. So
you made homemade stock?
Yeah.
Like beef stock or elk stock?
Elk, from my elk. Yeah, I kept a lot of the legs, the bones.
Nice.
This is the thing I love most about Colin is that when you get Colin here, it's like everything he made himself.
I like to do a lot from scratch as much as I possibly can. At home, a lot of times we will sometimes do tortillas from scratch too. I did not to go quite that route because ours tend to not be quite as pliable at home. We're still perfecting the homemade tortilla thing. So I didn't want it all cracking and falling apart here. So I went with store-bought this time. But let's see, you throw in, the broth and then the, of course, just two, I just had, two roasts in this case instead of just one. But usually you could use like a front leg shank. This was actually a rear roast in this case. Let's see, it's cumin, paprika, salt, kosher salt is what he calls for.
That shouldn't.
I guess I shouldn't breeze over that.
That's a difference maker. Kosher salt, in my opinion, is a really big deal.
What is kosher salt?
On everything. In fact, I'm off regular salt.
Why? Okay, what different kinds of salt are there? There's like Himalayan.
There's Himalayan
kosher.
pink salt.
That was in my guacamole.
Sea salt.
What? Can somebody explain?
Normal table iodized salt is like the main table salt.
Yeah.
So that has a little bit difference of a flavor profile to it. Like you'll get a little bit more bitter taste out of that from.
God, there's different salt flavors?
Well, you just get a little bitterness from the iodine. And the size of that salt crystal is so much smaller that if you're calling for a tablespoon or a teaspoon, you'll end up and you use that instead of kosher, it'll be much saltier than what it should be.
I see.
More granular.
More granular. Okay, yeah.
So throw that in there.
Interesting.
It was mostly it. Let's see what else.
I like the big flakes of the kosher too.
Yeah, it's cool. Yep. It kind of looks good, especially scattered all over the meat. Oh, there's
big salt flakes look good
because especially elk is so lean. You need some fat in there, so there's a quarter cup of lard in there too.
Oh, wow.
That you need to get in there to help keep it nice and juicy and stuff like that, so it doesn't dry out. Really? So that was another one. Oh, and chilies and adobo. That's also in there. So you grab that, about 4 of those in there, and then just basically throw it on high. Left it on for around 4 hours when I took it out. Got that in here early this morning, and then after 4 hours, pulled it out, and I have those big bear claw type gripper things, and just pulled it out onto a cutting board and just shredded the thing up, and that was my meat. So it was that's really what I wanted to kind of be the star in the burrito. So a lot of times on other burritos, I do love a lot of things like peppers and onions and salsas and all sorts of things. One of my absolute favorite things is like a smothered burrito with 505 green chili, which you don't have out here in Wisconsin that I've ever found anywhere. If anybody knows where to get it here, tell me where it is.
Grocers.
But yeah, we try to get it in bulk when we go out to Colorado, and we buy it there. But anyway, so this case, just because this was such a special barbacoa, it's got all the good stuff and the adobos in there. I didn't want to overshadow that, so I really wanted the meat to be the star here. So my burrito is pretty simple. I actually got a smaller tortilla, in part because I figured Rebecca's gonna have 4 burritos. She probably didn't need some massive, huge thing, but I just did a little bit of pinto beans in there.
What happened to Rebecca? She died. She ate 7 burritos.
Over 8.
Went out good.
Death by burrito. Some pinto beans, some cheese, like a Mexican cheese blend. Got the tortilla warmed up. I just use the microwave, but with the cheese, because I feel like it's really important to make sure you have good melty cheese in your burrito.
That's true.
I much prefer the nice melty cheese as opposed to when you get it and you bite it and it's still
cold, hard,
kind of cold. Yeah.
Shaved
so
cheese.
Got to warm it a little bit, and because, like you said, it makes it more pliable. So just laid in the cheese, warm that up, and then threw my meat on top to help that meat just in the heat there get into that cheese. The pinto beans, and then I did a homemade guac as well. I did a little bit of garlic in it, some red onion, cilantro, lime juice, and it was that Himalayan pink salt in that one. That's kind of how I mixed up my guacamole and laid that in there and rolled it up and presented. So it was pretty basic, not maybe quite as many awesome flashy ingredients like the rest of what I see on the table, but for a first time, I thought it turned out pretty darn good. So.
Well, I'd say, like you said, with the meat, there's so much going on with the meat there's really no reason to overshadow it with anything else. Like you really want that to shine through.
That's the thing usually when I found that if you slow cook something that's going to go, like a meat that's going to go into sort of a finished dish, usually it has a lot of what you would put in the finished dish if you didn't slow cook it. Usually it's all slow cooked together.
Yeah.
Right. So when it's all done, it's almost like chili. You know, you just kind of like, I'm just going to take this and put it in there.
Right. And that's really what this was. Like I said, it spoke for itself, and I figured if I got fancy with a bunch of the cool peppers and stuff like that, which these are delicious, or again salsas, things like that a lot of times we do like to make and throw in. I just figured it was going to get too many flavors going on. You wouldn't really catch like what the main point was. So
I thought one of the most impressive things was the dedication and showing up early and getting it going on the crock pot here. Everybody upstairs was smelling this stuff all day, and it was kind of a you were getting in my head. I know because it was almost
it's part of the plan.
It was an intimidation, a little gamesmanship there.
It was.
Yeah, check out what I got going on here. Oh, but you don't totally know yet.
It's almost like in Rocky 1 when he's about to face Creed, and then he's on the news, the local news in Philadelphia, and he's punching the big giant like half a cow.
Beef, set of beef.
You know, and then he's just kind of doing it on the news where Creed can watch, or Creed's manager, and they're sort of like, look at him, he's getting ready.
I was thinking the exact same thing, Jim.
Right? Yeah. The exact same thing? That's crazy.
Well, I did feel bad with all the aromas upstairs, and not everyone necessarily was going to get to partake because it just didn't have enough, but
they can all listen to this,
though. They can.
Basically,
I hope,
just through your words,
they know,
sure they can taste it.
They know where to find the recipe. Hank
Eating
Shaw's Buck
vicariously.
Moose. It's all it takes, and it's really anybody could do this. It's really not a hard one. So
nice. Sawyer.
I went a little off the rails with this one.
You were the wild card.
Yeah. So I'm going to preface this with two things. So before I describe this, one is traditionally, I am a traditionalist with stuff like street tacos, like less ingredients the better, fresh, really good ingredients. So I kind of broke my own golden rule on this one. But the other thing I would say is I'm always super interested in R3 and getting folks into kind of this type of lifestyle. And I think a really interesting way to do that is to mix with both ethnic foods and foods that traditionally people don't have with wild game. I think that's a really good way to get people interested in it, or just to straight up trick them if they don't know what it is. Like you don't want to mask. You want to let the wild game shine. Like Colin's was a perfect example, but sometimes you got to get creative too if folks at Thanksgiving aren't wild game eaters. But so what I did started with 2 wild turkey breasts from here in Wisconsin, and I did a marinade there with kind of a number of things. You've got soy sauce, you've got a little bit of acid, you've got some honey, you've got Korean chili powder, you've got some garlic, and make sure you crush that garlic before you put it in the marinade because it's going to release more of it into that.
Release all the oils.
Yep. So that's something that I've found for marinades. And the other thing I will say is when you marinate meat and you get it out, before you put it in a pan, pat it dry. Or else it's going to get all funky in there, and you're also going to get a much better crust, especially if you're cooking with cast iron on that.
You had a phenomenal crust on the outside.
It was borderline too much. Sometimes it gets really bitter when you get a little bit of crust on there, but I got lucky on this one. So
it was good.
Hey, thanks.
Hey, no
guys.
judging.
Like,
Have you
super
noticed? Have you noticed without Eric here, it's so like positive. It's weird. Have you noticed a significant difference when you use? I guess I've never tried it. Korean chili powder. Is that significantly different than regular chili powder?
Yeah, I'll let Rebecca step in, but I've found that absolutely. It's got a little different feel to it. It's not as granular. It seems it's a little bit more like dry and flakier. And that's the other tip I will add in is whether you like Asian food or not, go to your local Asian grocery store and tell them what things you like and just have them show you around the store. Like if you go in intimidated, same with the Mexican grocery store, like you are missing out on so much absolutely bonkers stuff by not going to those places. So
that is a good tip.
That's a great tip. I like that.
And they love to do it. The guy, I'm pretty sure I like made his day asking him all these very stupid questions, but should have got his phone number. I'll send him a burrito. But so we've got the turkey breast.
Do you have phone?
Text it to him. It's fine.
Hey, yes, it's me, the strange man from 3 months ago. I'm back.
And I'm offering you food unsolicited.
Tortilla, super traditional, grocery store tortilla. Toasted them a little bit. I'm a horrible burrito roller, so I feel like I lost some points for the way. Oh, she's nodding.
Slight
She's
nod coming from
nodding.
the judge's corner.
I mean, it was even after Jimmy gave his example of how to do it. You
Yeah,
watched him teach
Yeah,
you.
I
and
kind of
then
like listened over
still
my
fell flat.
shoulder, but I felt like that was like proprietary information. I didn't want to like steal it like right in the same contest. Like, hey, thanks, dude.
I definitely didn't realize that you were still cooking as I was giving the talk, but I can also probably imagine that with all the just nonsense I've been spewing about burritos this entire day, you're probably like, it's just another one of his rants.
Hey, I listen. I take notes when Jimmy gets on his burrito talks. So tortillas were super traditional. So then the other thing I tried to do is you're switching out traditional ingredients with kind of trying this new, and in this case, more of like an Asian cuisine spin on it. But I wanted to replace everything that was in there traditionally with something that I was kind of putting a little spin on. So obviously the wild turkey was replacing your protein. What I did to replace the rice last night, and this is key if you want to make fried rice, but I'm the only guy that made homemade rice. Write that down.
Well done.
It's noted.
So made
What's
that.
What's the difference between homemade rice?
Oh, you can tell, man. You just gotta
Sounds like a guy that
did
doesn't own
you-
a rice
yeah.
cooker.
That's,
Grow the rice in your yard?
So I did it
It's
in
got a rice
I did
patty.
it in a frying pan, actually. But so I made that the night before. So then you want cold rice when you start, preferably a couple days old for fried rice. And then there's a dish called Nam Cow, which is rice with sour sausage, which sounds on its face just sounds repulsive, but it's incredible. So I kind of plucked the rice from that dish. So you're looking at brown rice, red curry paste, oyster sauce, kind of more chili oil, a little bit of canola oil. And then once you get that frying, I also threw in some homemade kimchi and 2 whisked eggs.
Okay, yeah,
So
nice.
you're essentially trying to get a really good crust on that rice. And this wasn't one of my finer fried rice moments, but so then from there, replacing like the lettuce or the pepper mix, I went with bok choy, which another shout out to an incredibly underrated type of food. Bok choy, I think it's the cabbage family, just insane. So easy to cook. You can slow cook it. You can saute it. So we had more Korean chili powder on that. You're probably seeing a trend here. More chili oil, some canola oil, salt, pepper, just a little bit of garlic. I don't like to go too hard on the garlic. So that was, I wouldn't say finely chopped. You can do it whole or you can chop it. So I just sauteed that in a pan with some canola oil. Then from there, we had some homemade kimchi on there, which
And can you explain kimchi real fast? It's like it's pickled something.
fermented Napa cabbage is essentially what kimchi is. A lot of people,
What's the
once
difference?
again, feel free to step in here, but a lot of people put different spins on it. But
It's like spicy Asian sauerkraut.
you have to try
and
some
that's
before
and then
you.
that's
Like
different.
less vinegar.
That's
more
different from
fermented.
pickled. Fermented and
Yes.
pickled are different.
Pickled is traditionally something that you put in acid and salt and just let it sit, and it's not necessarily aged. The fermentation process adds either some yeasts or bacterias or
Like a
other.
culture.
There's a culture to it, and it ages and it produces the lactic acid, and it changes the way things taste.
And it can explode in your fridge.
Yes.
FYI, also leaks pretty often.
How
Well, I
long
think-
were
you
how
were even
long were you
saying-
doing this?
So I like it super funky, and I think people either they smell it or they see it or they hear how it's made, and they're like, "Ew, like that's disgusting." There's like fermented shrimp in here, like does not sound like something I want to eat.
It kind of does smell like a foot.
Yeah, no,
Oh,
it's
worse than a foot.
It's got some funk to it, but
Yeah, when you
awesome.
opened it up, I remember thinking I thought it reminded me of the smell you get when you're going and picking up like your little nephew from like a daycare, and it just kind of smells like diapers.
yeah, it's got that funkiness.
I wasn't getting that.
And it's got
I was getting a little
it's
bit
got
of
a
that.
little bit of like antiseptic funk to it.
Yeah.
And that's because obviously it's fermented, but
Well, you were saying even when you pop the top here, like there was some pressure built up.
yep, it was like a Coke commercial. I'm spinning that thing off. But
Is kombucha fermented?
yes.
Oh,
Yep.
and you also make
Okay.
that, don't you?
Yep. So that's a really fun thing to make, and another thing you're going to want some help with at the Asian grocery store. There is now a jar of fermented little mini shrimp in my fridge. We've got it double bagged.
Do you have one fridge at your house?
Our fridge is like
Or two.
Our fridge is like that factory at the end of Indiana Jones. There's just like relics from all parts of the world in there. And a lot of times something will fall on you when you open it. So you've also got that boulder chasing you too. So you guys should just come over. I'll cook for you. It's an experience. It's an experience.
Apparently, though, everything is at some sort of state of fermentation.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
Nothing will ever actually go bad in Sawyer's refrigerator. It just continually
Just
Adds
aging.
flavor.
bad.
Just
but
turns
you
into
can
something
still
else.
eat it.
Yeah.
You know,
From cabbage to kimchi to I don't know what the third stage is. I'm excited to see, but it gets funkier too. It's really interesting. Some people, if they like more garlic or more spice, you're gonna want to eat it probably earlier. If you want it funkier, let it go a little bit longer. This is like.
Can you describe the funky? Is
Do
that
you want to try some?
Here.
Well, I think that might
Yeah,
help.
okay.
This will
I'm gonna try
help.
some.
Yeah.
When you say, whoa, wait, what is in here?
Just try it.
Kimchi.
That's kimchi.
I know.
Dog.
So I get. What should I pick it up? I feel
Just
like
go
I'm
for
looking at. Well, go for it. I feel like I'm looking at like onion and chili powder and pickles that came out of a food processor. Should I eat it like this?
Yep.
Just a big old
Add a
spoonful.
pickle on there too. That's a good call.
Okay. So it tastes real. It got kick to it, pretty zip to it, but I guess I wouldn't describe it as like funky. Like
I think the smell is more funky than the taste is, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah, okay,
And I
yeah.
think that's what puts a lot of people off. Also really good for gut health. If you're into that type of stuff, like probiotics and that type of stuff, kimchi, really good for that.
you must have a really healthy gut.
No,
you
there are
can
other
smell it.
things that I do in my life that probably
That's why you have this.
Let's just
Yeah.
say
afford the other.
who saved who. Like it's one of those situations. I need this kimchi. I'd probably be dead if it wasn't for it. But lots of stuff going on down here.
testament to the kimchi.
Yep. So then to replace like a pickled jalapeno or that crunch on the top, super thinly sliced miniature cucumbers. And I just did this last night. And you can do a really easy, quick pickle in either a jar or a Ziploc. So usually I use rice wine vinegar. This time I just used white vinegar because we were out. Chili oil, just an absolute hint of sesame oil because that'll straight up take over a dish if you
Dude,
use.
that stuff is potent.
Yes.
It really
Yep.
is.
It's crazy. So that was on the top there. A little more kimchi on the side to kind of put on bites if you want, and then some green dragon sauce. So that's the only thing that's not homemade here. T. Joe's, shout out to Trader Joe's. The green dragon sauce is it's pretty magical. Plus, it has a really cool name. So
It does.
So that's what we're working with. So I actually didn't try the finished burrito.
That's all I had to say about that.
I pretty much just spitballed it up to this point, so I've never tried this finished product, so I'm a little worried, but
I gotta say,
Um,
I respect the audacity and the
was
creativity. It's super creative.
Very.
I just
mean-
tried the turkey. It was delicious.
It is good.
I think he was inspired by Mark's random burger last time, which was
Totally.
like totally off the wall and
Yeah,
somehow won.
strawberries, avocado.
Yep.
Why not
Sprouts,
just keep
yeah.
sprouts?
Towero burger.
Keep adding.
I find myself being inspired by Mark almost every day. So
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
this is just add it to the list,
Yeah.
you know?
Inspired. What not to do.
So that's what we're working with. It was super fun to make, and it was fun to talk about kimchi right now. Like I would go to your Asian grocery store. That's what I would say. Try new stuff.
It was very
Do it.
tasty. It was much tastier than I thought it would be.
Yeah, it scares people, but I think once you
It's like fish sauce. It smells
Yep.
terrible, but it makes everything taste awesome.
you
when I
don't know
Yeah.
how much
Fish
stuff
sauce
fish
is what-
sauce
yeah.
is in. You would never guess.
Fish sauce
Yeah.
is one of
Yeah.
those things too. And the name, I just want like, how do you make sauce out of fish?
Yep.
Fish
You don't wanna
sauce.
know.
When you said
I
oyster
don't
sauce,
think
I
I
was
do.
like, oh, that's a good touch. That's a good touch.
It's like there, hey, we got this sauce. It's made out of fish. What should we call it? They're like, how about fish sauce? Like they made it sound as disgusting as they possibly could.
You know, I assumed that there's some sort of fish component.
There is.
Okay.
Well, I think it's just like that guy in the Bassomatic 3000. I think they just kind of do that.
It's the Super Bassomatic 76, Jim.
Oh, well, whatever.
You will never have to scale, cut, or gut ever again.
I shouldn't have even tried. I knew you'd get the old classic SNL reference there. All right. Marco?
All right. Well, number one, Sawyer's never invited to another cooking competition again. Number two, I went with more traditional route. I kind of went a little outside the boundaries last time. Just, I figured I'd rein it back in, and I guess that was in an effort to, I guess, maybe respect the more traditional components of the burrito itself. At least that was my line of thinking. So I made
burger. You can disrespect burgers all you want. Is that?
Burgers can take it, man.
That's right.
yeah.
Burgers can take it.
They're pretty thick-skinned. But so mine was a little bit more of, I guess I'd call it a fajita style burrito. I guess the base meat of it was a piece of mule deer backstrap from the Colorado high country. I guess this is a tip. I don't know if it's a tip or not. It's something I do. If I really want to shave a piece of meat like extra thin, I actually prefer to leave it frozen, and then you can really just cut that thing just paper
so much
thin.
easier. Unless you have like a samurai sword of a knife. It's so hard to cut thawed out meat really thin.
Right.
I think that's what those Philly cheesesteak places do. They slice it frozen.
Yeah, I bet you're right, because that's kind of, I mean, if you kind of look at how this even turned out, it kind of looks like that consistency of a Philly cheesesteak.
Somebody from Philly who hasn't stopped listening after my lame Rocky reference, if you could confirm or deny.
But so then marinated it in a pretty simple marinade. It was just some Worcestershire, some salt, some pepper. Actually, I had left kosher salt and my really good big cutting board here at work, which both of those are missing in action right now. So I actually had to use iodized salt, which is goes against everything I believe in. But I was in a pinch. Little salt pun there.
Oh man, you and the puns today.
Extra points.
Oh come.
Sorry, guys.
Thank you.
I like puns.
Yes.
He's on a roll, if you will.
Oh, a burrito roll, Jim?
Yeah, see what I'm saying?
Touche.
Right.
I got yours marked too, don't worry.
Okay, yes.
So what did I do? So I cut that super thin, just some Worcestershire, salt, pepper. I took an orange. I halved an orange, squeezed that in there to get a little citrus, a little acid, and really only let it marinate for probably about an hour and a half, which was definitely, in my opinion, way more than plenty with how thin that meat was. And took some red peppers and green peppers, diced those up with a white onion, got them sauteing in a little bit of a mixture of olive oil and avocado oil, and put the meat in at the very end. And actually, Sawyer's tip on, I thought I had enough of the marinade out, and I definitely should have probably squeezed a little bit more of it out. When I dumped the meat in with the peppers and the onions, there was just a little too much fluid. I ended up having to pour some of it out, but I felt like it kind of steamed the meat a little bit more than I liked instead of crisping the meat a little bit more. So that's on me, and I'll do that better next time. But
that's on me, man. Put that on me.
My bad.
I accept full responsibility. I'm trying to think if I'm leaving anything out there. I don't think I am. So, you got a question?
Oh, I was just going to say, so curious on your thought process behind. So what I wanted to do is, with mine, I wanted to achieve the rare steak or the medium rare. So I kept it whole, sizzled, then cut. Mm-hmm. I've done the other way before. But I noticed where you pre-cut it and then cook it. Mm-hmm. You went for the pre-cut in even very thin slices. What was kind of the inner battle in your head that had the pre-slicing win?
So I mean, that definitely was a little bit of a battle. I made a choice. And I figured just the way the meat was, I knew that, and it goes pretty much against everything I believe in when you're cooking, red meat, wild game. I knew that meat was going to cook all the way through. There wasn't really a way around it. I could have let that sit in the pan for 10 seconds and it was going to cook all the way through and not be a rare piece of meat. But I also felt that the marinade had penetrated enough that it wasn't going to be, I guess, a big deal. I don't know. I'm not going to say I wouldn't do it differently next time either.
Okay.
And that's part of marinating, too, is you want a thin piece of meat. Because the marinade doesn't penetrate all the way through the meat, no matter how long you leave it in there. You leave in a big steak like what you had, it's not going to get through that meat.
Yeah.
So it's only going to be in that maybe eighth inch out on the outer edge. It just doesn't keep going. So
yeah, I was nervous when I didn't do a marinade but I've never done a marinade when I've done burritos before. So I just did the topical dry spicing right before it went in the pan. But yeah,
You can get too cute with marinades too. Like
Yeah.
some people
It's true.
marinate everything that they make, and it's just like all you taste is that marinade. If people leave it in there too long, like,
And you gotta
you
be
can
ca-
overdo it.
And you got to be careful sometimes too with the acids that you use because they can break down the meat and make it just kind of get a little gnarly.
Yep.
I remember
Yeah.
I tried once because I had a flank steak recipe that I would do where when I first started making it, I would add pineapple in at the time of cooking. And then one time I thought, why don't I make it way easier on myself and have it marinate with the pineapple? But then I didn't realize pineapple actually is like super gnarly on meat when you marinate with it. So I just don't think you should. I think it's highly not recommended. And but yeah, like you said, you get a little too cute and
Yeah, and I agree. And I guess at the risk of putting myself at a little bit of a disadvantage in this competition, I probably would do that differently and cook it as an entire whole piece of meat next time, and probably just season the outside with kosher salt, black pepper, garlic salt, and just get that kind of seared crust on the outside. Dice it up fine and put that in the burrito.
That is one of the mysteries of Mexican restaurants too, that I've never cracked that code, because they'll cut it like this and it'll be so crispy and good. Like all these little separate pieces in tacos, and I try to do it at home and it's just like it's like leather. It never turns out.
So the way
Yeah.
I've done it, so I made some gyros the other day, and it's got that same little crispiness because it wasn't like the shaved meat. But I had marinated it, I sliced it and cooked it, and then right before we served it, I put it under the broiler, so all the little tips that were sticking up
oh yeah,
would
yeah.
get really crispy and
that's how they
crunchy.
do.
But the rest,
That's
it's
it.
not in there long enough.
That's how they do
to cook the meat.
carnitas.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Same thing with carnitas.
Yeah, you slow cook, take it out, broil, then
Yep.
pour the juice over the yeah.
Oh, that's
Yep.
that's a hot tip.
There you
That
go.
is.
That's a hot tip.
In fact, one time I remember thinking to myself, I have this like sort of canned carnitas that I really want to try sometime, even though I've never gotten into canning. But if you canned carnitas in the sort of orange and jalapeno and whatever mixture, and then when you took them out and you were ready to eat them, then you just poured it out onto a pan and you broiled it.
Right.
I always wondered if that would be like quick carnitas. I don't know.
Well, and I think another thing that I'd do next time with this is actually I probably wouldn't. We're kind of limited on pans and things here. But
You mean at work
I
in the
would-
break room?
yeah, I worked in the break room.
Yeah.
So I probably would have taken that meat and put it in its own pan to crisp it up. Sans, the little bit of that extra marinade that made it in there. And I did, and because I mixed it, I didn't use this. I did have some honey, and I probably would have drizzled a little bit of honey over the top
you
and
love
really
the
dried
honey.
it out and got a little bit of that caramelization on
You're
top.
a big
But
fan of the honey.
next time.
Let me ask you one thing before we get to the judging too, Mark. So mine was a hindquarter steak, and we were discussing this a little bit prior to podcasting. And one thing I found is that nobody ever talks really much about the hindquarter steak, and yet I feel it's my favorite cut. And I'm not saying because I know somebody probably just swerved off the road and had a massive accident because obviously backstrap or tenderloins are the best, right? They can't be beaten. But I guess what I think is every time I try to cook backstrap and tenderloin, I do an okay job. And every time I try to cook hindquarter steak, I do a phenomenal job. And it's just like I've just happened to cook it better.
Backstraps are in your head.
I think they are. I think that's what it is. Because I think it's like you think to yourself like, oh my gosh, it's a backstrap. Or like, is it tenderloin? There's only two. And then you just flub it up. And then you're like all mad at yourself. And then when it's hindquarter, you're like, well, fine.
How are you?
And it comes off perfect.
Do you do the tenderloin whole? Or
Yeah.
do you cut it up? Yeah, I was going to say that's a trick a lot of people don't do. They just cut them all up to separate them out a little bit, and then they cook
That's
those.
worse for freezing
way,
too when
yeah.
you separate them all out.
Oh, worse
Got to
for
keep it whole, cook
Yeah.
the whole thing, and
Yeah.
then slice. That's a trick if you don't know that one. But
Backstraps and thirds are for us. I think that's
Yeah.
the way, depending on the size of the back. I mean, of course, you get a moose or something like that. That's going to change things.
There's just this S-shaped thing in your freezer.
Yeah.
I'd say in general, like on a deer-sized animal, backstraps and thirds is
yeah.
decent rule of thumb. So anyway, I'll keep going. Let's see. So we got kind of the carnita style meat, peppers, onions, added some black beans, a little Uncle Ben's rice. I went with the microwave rice, keeping it
Nothing wrong
relatable.
with that.
Sawyer,
Nothing wrong with
keeping
that.
it relatable. Black beans, white rice, half an avocado as a garnish. Threw in some Mexican 5 cheese blend. And I kind of topped it off with some homemade pico, which was just, I like white onions in my pico, so I go with a white onion, red tomato. For whatever reason, whenever I make pico, I buy the tomatoes they come like on the vine, if you will, that are in the store.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So yeah, tomato, white onion, a lot of cilantro,
Yep, tons.
and some crushed pineapple. Pretty simple.
Oh, yeah, there was pineapple.
And all just kind of rough chopped, and they're and hot jalapenos, the hot jalapenos, yeah. And so I threw that in there. Now I threw some cheese over the top of this thing, thinking that I was going to be able to melt the cheese. At the time, I didn't see that Jim had his sweet little griddle there, where I could have succeeded in that. So I just kind of had loose cheese over the top, but there should be some melted cheese in the burrito. So
We'll find out.
We'll find out. All right,
chips and a
Rebecca?
beer. Sorry, chips and a beer.
Oh,
you
yeah.
need to- and the lime.
Corona
With
with
the
the
lime.
Yeah.
great.
It's a good thing we're not
Pro
sitting in
move.
the sunny window, as we learned from our friends at the Wisconsin Brewing Company. That would have oxidized the Corona by now. and it
Oh,
would
it'd
have
have been
nasty and skunky.
skunked. Yep.
Okay, Rebecca, on to you.
All right. Guys, these were great. First of all of them were very good. I was very pleased to see that no one was Googling how to make a burrito during the competition this time.
Okay, during the competition, that's fair. But I do have a pretty good clip of Mark Googling how to wrap a burrito immediately before.
Never stop learning, Jim.
You better hope that's going to help you out today. You better hope that's going to help you out today.
Oh, it's my only hope.
Look, I'm just going to tell you, I disagree. That's all I'm going to say. I disagree.
With what?
Just that. I can see what's happening, and I disagree.
Just the order of operations, or
I don't want to tell you. I already told you. I gave you your one and only hint earlier
I've got a
today.
whole plan. This is the final. I don't care about anything he's doing right now, or she. I don't know yet on that.
I mega disagree with what is happening in front of my very eyes.
I don't even know. Look, okay, then I won't trust this video. It does have 242,000
It's
views.
so wrong. I'm thumbs down. I'm thumbs down in that.
I'm not gonna do that. I don't do that.
Look at.
What's wrong? I don't know. Looks fine.
Wrong. Come down here.
Wrap a
Wrapping
burrito.
is
Yeah,
different
yeah.
Wrapping a
than,
burrito.
Eric Googling how to cook a burger.
That is true.
when
That did
he's at the
happen
grill.
while he was at the grill.
So,
actually, I think the burger was even on the grill.
It was- anyways, you guys had a much better time this time. Overall, so cooking or judging burritos was a little bit different than judging burgers, just because there's so many different components to it and ways that it could be interpreted. So I changed my rating system a little bit this time, and
keeping it
instead of
fresh.
3, we broke it into 5.
Oh, jeez.
So
Okay.
there was a lot of pressure. No.
Big time.
So first criteria was tortillas. I judged the freshness of them, how thick they were, whether it was too tough or too chewy, whether it fell apart. Did it have... Mark, you looking
Mark's
a little
looking
scared
worried.
already?
I just didn't know there were that many things to a tortilla.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you don't
Oh,
want it to
there
fall
was no
apart. You don't
tortilla.
want it to be soggy. If you take a bite, you don't want it to get stuck to your teeth.
Fair
Like
enough.
if they're too
Fair enough.
chewy.
It's all true.
Does it have holding power? Like if I pick it up and set it down because I need to go do something, can I pick it up again? Some of these I can, some I can't. Was it warm? Was it cold? Was it toasted? So many things to just the tortilla. So that's one of the scores. The other was the main protein. Like, is the game featured prominently? Can we taste what we're doing here? Because of the style of the burrito, I think the flavors of each of the components needs to be pretty strong so you can tell what you're eating. With a burger, you can see it. Such a large portion of taste and presentation is the visual aspect of it, right? Like, you can see the lettuce, you can see the tomatoes. Here, you're taking a bite and you just kind of have to figure it all out. So something that is bland or doesn't have a lot of texture or flavor just kind of falls to the wayside. So then there was the other ingredients.
She's good.
Mark's looking nervous over here.
She's good.
She's good. That's all
She
I'm saying.
is.
good.
Fantastic.
I want to keep this job. I really like eating your guys' food, so I want to make sure I'm like doing it well. The other ingredients was the next. If you add sauces, is it the right consistency, thick enough acidity? Does it is the vegetables added fresh and flavorful? Are they adding different textures, bold flavors, that type of thing? And then the presentation. How does it come together? Is there a good ingredient combo in each bite? Because there's nothing worse than eating a burrito and getting like one bite of sour cream or guacamole, and then there's nothing throughout the rest of it.
Oh my gosh.
So you got to have that good mix of a little bit of every flavor in each bite. How is it rolled? Like if there's wads of tortilla at the top and you have to like eat halfway through. Sawyer, do you want me to? Hey, these were all created before.
Yes.
This was all done in advance. Does it overall have the right combinations of textures, liquids? Is it generally pleasant and enjoyable? That type of thing.
Generally pleasant. What a judge phrase.
It's generally
pleasant.
Did I enjoy this experience?
Yeah.
Yes. it was
Only
great.
Judge
You know
Rebecca
what?
would bring that to the
And
table.
well, you know what though?
That's
To
what
me,
most people
that's
judge
like
on,
the
right?
90.
It's true.
That's
It's
the
a
90%.
huge portion of it. It's
true.
just generally pleasant.
Yep.
Yeah.
Does it make you happy when you see it on the plate? Are you excited to eat it?
Yep.
That is true.
That's
Sometimes
true.
I eat too much though, then I'm like the opposite of happy and very sad. Almost shameful.
Yeah. And then the last thing is overall flavor profile. Like, does it have enough salty, sweet, sour, acid, creamy, heat, those type of
Okay,
things? Like,
yeah.
is it well balanced? So,
Well balanced.
all right. You guys ready?
Yeah, this is.
I'm nervous
This has
too. I'm not
been.
gonna lie.
I've been losing a little bit of sleep for the last however long we've known about this coming up.
What about finishing first? Any points for finishing
No.
first?
No.
What is
Sorry.
that? Oh, you mean in chronologically you were done first? Okay, yeah,
Sorry. The beer got you an extra point, though. So,
Well done.
yeah.
yeah, it's a nice palate cleanser between the courses.
The palate cleanser, right?
You need
Gotta
something
have
to cut through it all. So do you guys want to go one by one, or do you want to know who wins first?
Here we go.
We can go one by
One by one.
Just
one.
leave it the cliffhanger.
Let us all have our moment before you.
All right.
Nobody wants to come in
don't-
last.
If you're
They won't be
listening,
invited back.
if you're listening on your way into work right now and you've reached the parking lot, just stay there a little bit longer, and we'll talk to your boss.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna go through these in how I judged them chronologically. So Mark's was done first, then we'll go to Colin's, then Jimmy's. So
All right.
I like it this way because then if I start crying at the end, I can just leave.
yeah,
Ryan,
I'm gonna
Ryan, can you cut Mark's mic quick?
okay. So Mark, overall, yours was a great start. It looked great on the plate. Had great flavors. I was really impressed with the different textures that were within it. The peppers and the onions had a really good crisp to them. They weren't soggy. They held up well. Everything was pretty well balanced. The tortilla was a little soggy already. I tried to judge it even before the salsa juice came over onto it. But it was a little soggy. As it sat there, it started to fall apart a little bit, kind of difficult to pick up, which is why I ended up using a knife and fork on it. But I still wanted to use a knife and fork on it because it was really good. You had a good distribution of ingredients. There was pretty much a little bit of everything in each bite. The meat was a little sweet compared to some of the other things. Like I would have liked a little bit more heat or acidity to cut through it. I think your jalapeno was almost there, but I would have done a fresh jalapeno instead of the canned one because you
Okay.
lost a little bit of the zip
Sure.
to it, which would have
That's what
helped
you meant
with
when
the
you're talking
sweet.
about the hot jalapenos. You did the hot canned ones.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Yep. And then the salsa was really good. I loved the pineapple in there, kind of mimicked the sweet of the orange and the meat again, but it was a little too oniony.
Okay.
So-
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Which is something that I like personally, but like
Yeah.
I know that's a me thing too.
No, but
That's
overall,
just a me thing.
it was great. The fresh lime was awesome. The avocado, I think, was a really good addition to make it a little more creamy, but it's just a chunk over on the side. So I would have like if you would have sliced that and placed it over top or within, it would have been killer.
All right.
So, yeah, overall, tortilla, 3 out of 5.
Fair enough.
Yeah, protein, 4 out of 5. That was great. I
Oh.
really liked that. The other ingredients were a 4, presentation a 4, and your flavors were a 4. They were well balanced.
Oh my gosh, I'll take it.
Yeah,
All right.
pretty solid.
All right.
So
Hot start.
19 out of a possible 25.
Holy man,
that's a good
That's
score.
pretty good.
Okay.
Way to
all
set the
right.
bar.
Setting
Okay, that's the bar.
high.
No one else is going to get to know what they got ranked. Just so you know, Mark's, because
Oh
otherwise
my
you'll
gosh.
figure it out.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
She's good. We didn't
she
even
is
tell her to
good.
do that.
Gosh.
All right.
Any questions or comments?
No, I think
You good?
I think that's a perfect assessment.
Yeah. I was really hungry going in too.
Yeah, you did have that
later.
advantage.
Yeah.
Stuff
But I
tastes
tasted
better
it
when
like-
you're hungry.
Yep.
I came back to it again too, though, so we're good. All right, moving on to Colin and the barbacoa. Picked it up and put it down, stayed together, wrapped, perfect. So that was great.
Well done.
It is
It's still look at it
it's
sitting there
still perfect.
just
Like you can pick
pristine.
up each piece.
That is
You're like
impressive.
statue.
good to go.
I will say I was cautious with the barbacoa because it's easy to get it too juicy and then it's just
Yeah.
a soggy mess. So I was very
did a
much on my
great
mind
job with that.
as I
for
was
you.
doing that.
Yep.
When I saw you slow cooking
So-
something, I thought anytime I've seen slow cooked stuff end
Yes.
up in a burrito, it winds up
Which
bleh.
I'd considered for temperature putting it back into that, but I was like, if I do, it's over. Like it's going to be
Nope.
saturated, soggy, wet
Yeah.
mess. And I was like, nope, I'm going to hold it to the side. We'll just give it a little reheat and
Yeah.
put those juices on. So anyway,
That
No.
tortilla is
Sorry
like
for the
a
interruption.
starched collar.
It's
Yeah.
incredible.
I mean, it's been sitting here for a little bit.
It's
dried
been
out
a while.
little bit.
Yeah.
I did have to. The tortilla itself, while it held well, was one of those that's a little chewier.
Yep.
And just a little thick. So not quite as like spongy or wrapped as well as the other ones. But overall, though, like the meat in that is killer. It is a hug. It is super good. It's very flavorful. The texture was perfect. It wasn't too soft or too chewy. It was really, really good. Simple. Definitely let that shine. So that was excellent. The touch of the melted cheese in there was great. Really liked that. Where I thought it could have used a little bit of improvement was on that texture or like balance of some of the flavors. So pretty much everything in there is creamy. There's not a lot of like differentiation between things. So I couldn't necessarily tell if I was eating the beans or the meat. Like you couldn't tell the difference in a bite of what all the components were. And then some of the same things, like a little bit of the acid was needed to cut through some of that. So either a little bit more acid, a little bit of more salt in the guac,
Okay.
that type of thing. So, and I think some of the, so you said you used the like crystallized or the Himalayan,
pink
the
Himalayan
pink salt.
sea salt. Yeah.
I think that would have been good if you would have let it sit longer. I don't think it had time for those crystals to dissolve within it.
Yep.
So it was just a little lacking in the salt for the guac. But overall, that was
Oh,
that
I
was
didn't even
a
realize you
killer
have to have to
barbacoa.
let the.
Now,
Makes so much sense though. You got to let the salt do
Yeah.
its thing.
Yeah, it's
and
either got to dissolve
proliferate.
or
yeah.
that's why sometimes you would use table salt if you're going to serve right away or to like season last minute in something that you don't want that crunch to.
Yeah. Okay.
You would do it there. But
that's all I had.
I bet the guac tastes
Now-
awesome now.
No, it's probably true.
Yeah.
Except there's none left. Now, I did think about, and I did have a tomato and some lettuce to put in there, and I opted to not put them in. So that would have added some extra texture that you would have liked.
It would have
into
added a
it, and
little
it's
bit
not
more of the
acidity in
crunch,
the
yep.
tomatoes. Okay.
I'm gonna ask a question here because I was
Yeah.
kind of afraid of the lettuce in the burrito because I didn't want it to get like wilty and like soft. But the Jim, Mango Man, and you put it right in there, no problem.
You know, you just don't put it in until the very last minute.
Yeah.
All right.
And then when you
Yeah.
put it in, then it kind of retains some of its crunch.
What I was worried about too, just didn't want it to just kind of, I don't know, all fall apart in there and
Yeah.
just be like, Okay.
It's
Good deal.
though. Yeah.
God, I'm taking so many mental notes right now for like
Me too.
Just so
too creamy, add a little less acid or crunch.
Yeah.
It's so interesting getting this type of feedback on your food.
Yeah.
Like when you cook for other people, like at home or anything, they're like,
yeah.
yeah, it's good.
Oh yeah, they're
Yeah.
all family
They're
or
not,
friends.
they don't have 5 like criteria. They're like,
Family or
flavor was
friends.
lacking a
Imagine
little bit
Thanksgiving
tonight.
dinner.
I'd be a little weirded out if that happened. How was it? Well, let me get my
Yeah.
notebook.
Let me get my 4 pages.
Yeah,
of notes
I'm not
out.
invited back to people's houses right now. I'm just kidding. No, like I said at first, these were all great. I would be happy with any of them, but that's not my job here. I'm not here to boost your egos. I'm here to tell you who had the best burrito.
To tell the truth.
Tough
well
but
done.
fair.
Right.
Yeah.
But
Not
tough
making
but fair.
friends.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, Jimmy,
Yes.
you're up.
Here I go.
That was the best homemade burrito roll, like assembly process I have ever seen.
Thank you.
All those hours creeping through the windows at Chipotle have done you well.
Oh my
That
gosh.
was
I'm to the point now where I judge all of them and how well they do. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, that guy knows what he's doing. Oh.
This is your first
Yeah.
day, isn't it?
I was watching.
yeah.
Yeah, oh, sometime, yeah.
Jim showed us how to do it, and I still don't know how to do it because he did like a fold, and then he did and then you got to fold it in the middle, but it was like a double fold.
It's got this weird
It's like a little pleat.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you do. You
Nice.
gotta.
Crazy.
You gotta be using each individual finger has a job.
Yes.
and it's all a different job.
All fingers
So your
were
middle
engaged.
finger is holding the side folds in. Your thumbs are doing this. Your index fingers are holding the ingredients in. Then your ring finger and your pinky finger are kind of holding up the second fold, and it's all just
Yeah.
Well executed.
Thank you.
Overall, the burrito had a good heft to it. Like you want to pick it up and feel like it's a solid burrito. That was pretty good. Once you bite in, visually it was gorgeous. Like the bright red from the red onion, the green from the spinach. Do you think you used this time
Yeah, I
instead of
used
the other
spinach.
stuff? Yep. The yellow and orange peppers, the black beans, the rice, the little hits of green from the cilantro peeking through in the rice too. It was really pretty. Overall distribution was good of the ingredients. The sauce was a little pocketed in one area.
Okay.
Like I didn't get a few bites of that until the second, like it didn't come in until the second or third, and then it was a really big, juicy one.
Got it.
Yep. But other than that, the cheese, it would have been nice if it was a little bit more melted. So I don't remember in which order you put those in. That was in between.
It's last, and probably had it been at home, I have a cast iron in the middle of my range that's right over some burners. It gets really, really hot, and that's what I toast the burrito on, whereas I was using kind of the pancake fryer here to do the final toast, which is usually cheese and down, so I don't think the heat made it all the way through to the cheese.
Probably not. And then overall, the rice had lots of flavor. The rice was great.
Sweet.
Yeah, the guac was good. Maybe slightly smaller bits of onions and cilantros because there was some where it would get like an entire stem through,
Oh, yeah.
or like a huge chunk of onion. It was a little like kept falling off the chips and out of the bites. But overall, it was really good. Well done.
Okay. Whew.
Yeah.
All right. I can live with that. Sawyer?
You
I
ready?
feel like she's been super nice to all you guys, and now she's just gonna drop the hammer. Like, oh, that was a cool story about the Asian grocery store. Now I'm gonna completely crush it.
The note on the side of yours is that is a kick-ass red curry rice. That was awesome. My husband and I eat a lot of fried rice, especially like the curry fried rice. That was awesome. Cool. It was really
It was
good.
excellent.
Glad you
Let's
liked
get
it.
up and
So
leave
don't
now.
worry.
Yeah, it's all downhill from here.
Unfortunately, this was a
Yeah.
burrito contest.
Well, no. So notes. The tortilla was a little tough. I think it's because you used the double tortilla instead of the single,
Yep.
which helped it not fall. In theory, would have helped it not fall apart. But yeah, it made it a little tough to get through.
I have a parallel to doubling up on tortilla wraps, but I can't say it. But I just don't think it works as well as people think it will work.
Oh, yep, I gotcha.
So that's all I'll say.
Noted. I didn't want to.
It seems like a good idea in theory, and then in actual practice, it's not. That's all I'll say.
Yep.
I just didn't want to have that moment of panic when you get a rip. When you
Yeah.
when you do it and then it starts growing and you're just like,
Yeah, breaker,
throw it away.
Yep.
Yep. Some of the turkey chunks were a little big and difficult to chew. What if you didn't get the whole thing right away? Other than that, the flavor, like there were fantastic pops of flavor throughout that. The sesame oil was just enough to like taste the smokiness of that, while it didn't overpower anything. The bok choy was really good and crisp. The cucumbers added a great acidity to it. I would have taken a lot more of those on there. Those were great.
That's good to know.
Yeah, I would have had a lot more of those. And I think overall it just needed a little bit more moisture. So I think if you would have put the green dragon sauce within it,
I did put a little in there, but I wanted to leave it up to the
yeah.
judge.
Possibly a result. Do you think is that a result of just being turkey, or do you think it's a result of just?
You've got the egg too. You're essentially scrambling an egg and cooking it in that fried rice so that it doesn't get dry, but it's got kind of that texture thing going on. But
I don't think it was any I don't think the egg was overdone. I don't think there was any rubberiness to it at all. I think overall just maybe like if you would have added a little bit more of the green dragon or some sort of like a Asian. I'm trying to think of like what's a good crema version of it. But
I was gonna
don't know
make an
what you would do.
aioli
Okay.
with sriracha, but I didn't think that.
yeah.
I didn't think that
Sriracha.
fit. Like it. That's the tough part with making an Asian burrito too. Cheese obviously does not
Doesn't work,
make
yeah.
sense. But
Yeah.
oh, interesting.
I think there's a cheese for everything.
I was just gonna say that. I was like, cheese always makes
I think
sense.
you can find something.
Fermented cheese.
Even if it
Fermented cheese.
even if it was maybe like a super mild white cheese
Yeah.
that just
Yeah.
doesn't have much of a flavor to it.
Like a
but it adds
cotilla or
that.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, or you could, if you're looking for some sort of moisture thing, you could do a little bit of like a marinated soft tofu that's ground,
Yep.
or like shredded or something.
Yeah,
like
that would
crumbled
definitely.
into it.
That would definitely. That's a really good
Oh,
idea.
Yeah.
man.
That's what I would
Yeah.
probably do next time.
Yep.
My gosh,
It's a great idea.
brilliant.
Anyways, the sesame, the little bit of fermentation and the umami coming from the kimchi, it was great.
The U word. Did you hear it?
Umami.
Umami.
Dude,
It was great.
I'm with you.
But yeah, kick-ass red curry. That was great. Okay.
How did you choose? Like, I mean, this must have been
This is why I
Difficult.
rely on my grading system.
right.
Because I can't say like this one is arbitrarily better than any of the others. Like I would literally want to eat all of these again. So it comes down to the grading
Take that.
system.
Yeah.
We all won.
All right. But the official scores, just to recap, Mark got 19.
Okay.
Colin, for yours, the tortilla scored a 4. The meat scored a 4. The I had a 4. What is the I? Other ingredients. I didn't write them down on all the pages. Presentation, 4. And the flavor was 3. That's where we didn't have as much as the acidity
Okay.
and stuff. So you tied with Mark at 19.
I'll take it.
Fair enough.
Okay. Jimmy. Tortilla, 5.
Yes. Okay. Phew.
Protein, 5.
Yes, absolutely.
It was really good. Perfectly
Appreciate that.
cooked.
Yeah,
It was
that's money.
crispy where it needed to be crispy. The flavor was there, highlighting it. It was great.
I can admit when I've been bested, I had Jim's. I was like,
No doubt.
That's good.
We'll,
Good.
I'll post my not so secret Mexican seasoning, or I don't know, Jim version of Mexican seasoning.
Jim's.
You guys should post recipes for all these.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds like a good idea. Especially someone as complex as Sawyer's would be great to post.
Yeah.
I'll have to get permission from Hank first.
Copyright.
Just a line. Go buy this cookbook.
There you go.
Make
Yeah,
this meat. Yeah. Other ingredients, 4. Like I said, some of the things were chopped a little bit bigger. It would have been nice if the cheese was melted. The presentation was a 4. And then the overall flavor, like the balance of things and the diversity and textures, I give that a 5 too. So that was a pretty high score. You are 23
Oh,
out of 25.
thank you.
Sawyer.
Just skip the tortilla.
The wild card.
I'm so pissed now.
Okay, so let's pretend the tortilla didn't exist. We'll just skip that one for now. Overall, the protein, I gave it a 4. The turkey was great. I really like the flavor of the Korean chili flakes coming through on that. The other ingredients were a 4. I really liked each of them individually. They worked well, but I think like some of it you just needed a little bit more of the sauce or the different things. Presentation overall was a 4. I like your cute bowls. Those were a good touch.
Those are sweet
was
bowls.
nice.
Nice touch.
Yep.
It did look good though.
And then the flavors and the balance, same things. I gave you a 5 on that. So if you would have nailed it with your tortillas, you would have been close. But overall, you got a 20. So still second.
Dude,
That
Tortillas.
was a pretty good
that's
start.
still pretty solid.
That was pretty
That's still
good.
I'll
pretty
take
solid.
it. I'll take it.
Yeah. So first place, Jimmy.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna
You
get
made
so
it.
Did
much
it.
more sleep now. Oh, I've been thinking
This
about this
weight
for
has,
You
weeks.
did it.
This weight has been lifted off.
This is huge.
Jim
really-
came into
there
this
was-
one with everything to lose.
Yes,
I was genuinely
literally.
like,
No doubt.
I don't ordinarily get stressed out, but I've been stressed out for a long time.
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Nice work,
They were
everybody.
great. You
was
guys
good.
did awesome.
Well done.
So, what are your top burrito after having all of these? What are your top burrito tips for someone listening? Like, how
Me?
do you not mess up a burrito?
Yeah.
I think one of the important things to consider is make sure that you're using the right tortilla for what your meat is. So it's got to be nice and big. It's got to be pliable. Warm it up. Building on what Jimmy did, make sure you get the right roll to it, and that searing of it to like keep it closed and give it a little bit of crispness on the outside. That was awesome. Like I will be taking home that idea and doing it from now on too.
A lot of what I did when I got that sort of down was going to a number of different Mexican restaurants and watching them roll the burritos. Because when you think about somebody, even if you go to like a fast food Chipotle or whatever, the high school kid at the back of the line, like that is his job. He has to roll those burritos every day. He's just rolling burritos. and they get big ones, small ones, and you'll start to figure out like that guy knows how to roll a burrito, that guy doesn't know how to roll a burrito, and you'll start to see the subtleties. And there's a Qdoba that's really close to my house that's in Madison, and there's a guy there that when I walk in the door, I look up and I'm like, this guy's gonna roll it right. And I just know. And I actually will purposely order it extra big because usually if I know somebody doesn't know how to roll it quite well, I'll order it a little bit smaller so they don't rip through the tortilla when they try to pack all that in. But when that guy's there, I can order it as big as I want, fill the whole tortilla. He'll still roll it. It's incredible.
For all of you people who work at Chipotle's and Qdobas, your customers are watching.
I am judging. That's why they put that clear glass window there so I can watch.
Absolutely. So crazy watching a master of his craft, right? It's like watching a good blacksmith.
It is. It is.
Just rolls it.
Beautiful.
So that's one. And then I'd say whatever protein you use and the rest of the ingredients, make sure that you're tasting each of them individually and that you get a good variety of stuff going in. I don't think you have to make the same recipe every time. I don't think you have to use the same things. If you like spicy, add some spice in to cut through some of the creaminess or the fatty side of the meats or the cheeses. If you don't like spicy, add some lime juice. Just change it up a little bit and get something new in there. But make sure you have a variety of like textures going into it because that'll just make it all that much better. So
Awesome.
Great tips from the
Thanks,
judge.
Rebecca.
A fantastic judge. Once again,
Yes, thank you.
We have found Rebecca's true hidden talent.
Calling?
No kidding.
Calling, aside from designing kick-ass product packaging.
thanks.
So,
Yeah.
yes, next time you open up a box with your Vortex product in it, you can look at that package and know it was designed by one of the best food judges in Vortex. Probably the best.
And the world.
Probably
In
the
the
world,
world, yeah.
let's be honest. Okay, with that said, everybody, thank you for listening. Go and cook on up your own burrito creation. We'd love to see it. Why don't you just share it with us? Or street tacos if you swing that way.
Feel free to send us one if you want me to judge it.
Yes. Yes, we accept, I think our docs accept USPS, FedEx, and UPS, all major carriers. So if you'd like to ship your burrito to us, we would gladly accept it. And yes, MC Ryan, thanks as always for bearing with us in our rather odd podcast ideas. Yeah. All right. Cool. Thanks, everybody.
Well
Bye.
done.
Bye. So the ninja in action here is about, what would it be? 8 or 9 years old. Got it right before heading off to school in college, and picked it up with the intention of hoping to make friends in the dorm rooms. And I don't exactly know if it was allowed or not, but what we used to do is have hump day buffets, which was every Wednesday. I would do a little slow cooker operation in this bad boy, have it going all day, and accumulate smells across the dorm floor, by which the end of the day, everybody wanted to know what was going on, and so they all congregated to mine and my roommate's room, and then everybody got to have a delicious meal, and we all bonded. Came very close that year. Thanks to the Hump Day Buffet and the Ninja. It has slow cooker and stovetop abilities, although now it appears getting a little sizzle, which is good. But it does definitely seems to have lost some of its luster over the years, I'm not going to lie. We'll hope that it has at least one more round of burritos left in it for today.
Jim, we used to do a similar thing with a 30 rack of Bush Light.
Yeah, that works too. It's probably a lot easier as well.
faster.
Yeah.
Secret weapon, Sawyer.
Dictionary definition.
None of that day old stuff.
So
This is fresh.
I wanted to make sure.
Not mad, I'm just a little disappointed, I guess, in Mark. You think you know somebody and you see him pull out that.
This is a victim of circumstance, and like I said, this is very within accessible to a person that just wants to make a burrito fast.
Have you ever heard the story of Uncle Ben?
No?
At least.
Nice guy, I assume.
Yeah, I never met him.
Hell of a riceman.
Yeah.
Mark, oh my gosh,
Where
we've done this on this thing?
I think I stand. What? Oh, geez, Jim. Ryan, you're gonna wanna look at this.
Perfect.
That is perfect.
I thought I forgot it.
That is
And
perfect.
I thought I forgot it and overcooked it, but oh my gosh. The Ninja. I'm very happy with that. Very happy with that.
You should be.
Now, I'm not going to leave it this way because I want to make sure that, the worst thing you can do is have a burrito where you bite into it and then you pull the whole gigantic slab of meat out with one bite. It's just messy. It's not particularly flattering for anybody.
All right now, Rebecca is cutting my burrito open and looking at it and analyzing for things completely unknown. I think she's checking like the ratio of layers or something. Honestly, she's making a lot of notes. So, I have no idea what's going through her mind right now. I can tell you what's going through her mind. I'm a wreck. I'm a nervous wreck.
Do you ever watch an NFL game on the sideline and you see the coach, like you can't hear him, but you know what he's saying?
Yeah.
Just sour mouth and it tastes like but I didn't want to tell you, but I just thought it was an opportunity.
No, I appreciate you telling me.
All right, that'll wrap it up for this episode of the Vortex Nation podcast. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Hit that subscribe button so you can always stay up to date on the latest happenings over here at the Vortex Nation podcast. You can also follow us on Instagram at Vortex Nation Podcast. Again, everybody, thanks, and happy hunting and shooting. We appreciate it. Have a good one.